Good evening. I'll do my level best to keep this short because I know it's been a long day and past 3 days you've been busy. So what I'm trying to do is to just share some experiences working in the tourism space, but in times of climate change. So I'm not going into the theories, I'm not going into the large numbers, I'm just going to focus on one small region in Kerala where we've been actively working and trying to see how we can bring the tourism industry, which happens to be 9 trillion US dollar industry, and how we can actually make positive changes in times of climate crisis. So one challenge that we as a small travel company, the Blue Yonder, has faced is like in 20 years, in many locations that we work, we ended up somehow responding to more than 13 major disasters. Each one of them, except for the Nepal earthquake, directly scientifically proven to be related to climate change. Now, when I say massive, I'm only talking about disasters that has cost destination at least 5 billion US dollar. So I'm not talking about small floods, I'm not talking about small landslides, but unfortunately right now what's happening is even just day before yesterday in Greece, 2 islands were completely flooded, affecting 3 months of tourism arrivals. It just happened day before yesterday. And this news is, earlier it would come always from the global south. Now you are hearing this more, it's happening in France. Paris was just under flood just a month ago. There's many counties in different parts of Europe. This is repeating. So earlier it was so difficult, 20 years ago, it was so difficult to talk to our colleagues in the tourism industry about climate change, the impact, because it was something happening in global south. But now it's becoming, unfortunately, but the timing is correct, people can relate to it. You can go to New York, the New York metro could flood. You can be in Washington, D.C., tidal impacts, tidal floodings are happening there. So it's becoming easy to communicate, to show there is. So what I am trying to show you, just few experiments that we tried out in places like Kochi. Instead of getting worried about climate change and running away from it, looking at the impact of climate change and see how tourism enterprises can actually make positive changes in the crisis. This experience is just about 45 minutes away from Fort Kochi. So this unique twilight dining experience, for the traveler, it might be an amazing, beautiful, twilight-related dining experience. But for us, this was a project that we started in 2010 because of the climate change impacts that we started seeing in places like Kochi. So right now, one of the biggest challenges that a lot of farmers and fishermen in coastal areas of Kochi are facing, not just Kochi, across Kerala is facing, is even somebody who owns a Chinese fishing net doesn't even earn more than 200 rupees a day. Compared to Kerala, where the average wages are about 1,000 and 3 meals a day. And this is purely because of the fish diversity going down. This is because of the catch going down. So we started exploring, there are like 200 plus Chinese fishing nets. Like in those people who have been to Fort Kochi, you will see that the Chinese fishing nets are always on the land jutting out into the water. But the ones that you're seeing here, this is in the middle of waterways, and many of them are unutilized. So we started upcycling it, redesigning it in such a way that we created a 20 by 20 dining space, where once after an hour of punding, you climb onto the platform, you can see your food coming from different homes in small canoes and little boats. And one such platform is supporting more than 5 families. So somebody who is earning, who used to earn just about 200 rupees a day, all of a sudden is per family earning more than 4,000 on the day, 4,000 rupees a day, while the dining is happening. So it's closed for 6 months a year, because during monsoons, whenever there is raining, because it doesn't have any cover. So this is, for us, it is like, for a traveler, it might be a beautiful experience, but for us, it's more like what a travel company can actually do in terms of developing a climate change adaptability initiative. Again, in the same island of Waipin, this was an initiative that was started by a volunteer who started planting 25,000 saplings, taking money from his pocket. And then we reached out to him when we heard about this, asking if we could actually pay him. And he was offended that we offered him money to plant. That's the sincerity in which local community members were. But our idea was to develop this into a scalable initiative, because after the tsunami, a lot of mangroves in different parts of Kerala has destroyed. So how about this initiative replicated in multiple locations so that we can actually create a natural barrier in places like Waipin. So Waipin Island is one of the most populated islands in India. And this is also an island that came into existence in 1341 following the great floods in Kerala. Now, this small initiative, which started 3 years ago, with 25,000 sapling, has now grown into 272,000 saplings. You can take plus or minus 30% of damages, but still imagine the impact of that. So now this is supporting about 25 families. So instead of volunteers, now the community members, they get paid. And in the trail, what happens is, we have 2 people whose job is, whether there are travelers or not, their job is to collect the plastic bottles that are coming into the mangroves. Now, often, we can fill a room like this in 3 months. Top to bottom, side to side. That's the amount of plastic bottles that come there. But now we have a partnership with the local self-government, the Panchayat, where we collect the waste, for which we pay the community members. It's about 1,000 rupees a day. And then the Panchayat has now an agreement with the local entrepreneur, where this is converted into pellets that are used now in the road construction in Kochi. So it's an ideal circular economy, it's no rocket science, it's a simple model that many of our travel companies can actually partner with property owners, can work with DMOs and replicate in, across our country. Now, again in the same area, there is this art form called Chavuttu Nadagam. Now, this is an influence of the Portuguese culture. The stories are very European. It's stories of kings and queens and emperors of Europe, but the narration is all in Tamil. And this is happening in Kerala, where Malayalam is the language. So much of richness in one small area. This is, whatever I'm showing you right now, this is all in less than 9 square kilometer space. Now, this is an experience that we provide to our travelers, where we curate it, we run workshop, travelers move, there are lecture demonstrations, etc., etc. But this is the life of the artist on a day-to-day basis. This is not a monsoon story. This photo was taken in March last year, 2 years ago, March 2 years ago, by one of our photographer friend called Sunil. So the water that you are seeing is the sea water that entered coastal Kochi in 2011, much before the famous or infamous 2018 flood. Now, for the media, tidal flooding is not sexy and cool because it's not from a surge of water coming in. It's not big impact. It's something that is eating up people's life on a small day-to-day basis.
ബഹുമാനപ്പെട്ട കളക്ടർ സാർ അറിയുവാൻ, ഞങ്ങളുടെ നാട്ടിലെയും എൻ്റെ വീട്ടിലെയും കാര്യങ്ങൾ ഓർമ്മിപ്പിക്കാനാണ് ഈ എഴുത്ത്. ഇപ്പോൾ കുറേ കൊല്ലമായിട്ട് ഉപ്പുവെള്ളമാണ് ഞങ്ങളുടെയൊക്കെ വീടിൻ്റെ ചുറ്റിലും. വീടൊക്കെ കേടായി. എൻ്റെ കൂട്ടുകാർ ആദിത്യൻ്റെയും അതുലിൻ്റെയും പിന്നെ ആര്യയുടെയും വീട്ടിൽ 2011 ഓരുവെള്ളം കയറാൻ തുടങ്ങിയതാ. 13 കൊല്ലമായിട്ട് അവർ ഇങ്ങനെ ജീവിക്കണേ. 15 മിനിറ്റ് വെള്ളത്തിൽ കൂടി നടന്നിട്ടാ സ്കൂളിൽ പോണേ. കാലാവസ്ഥ മാറ്റാന്നാ പറയണേ. കുറെ വീടും പോയി, ആൾക്കാർക്ക് ജോലിയും പോയി. നാരായണൻ ചേട്ടനൊക്കെ എത്ര മീൻ കിട്ടിയിരുന്നതാ, ഇപ്പൊ ഒന്നുമില്ല, തൂമ്പുപണി മാത്രമായി. ഇവിടുത്തെ മെമ്പറൊക്കെ പലതും ശ്രമിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്, പക്ഷെ ഒറ്റയ്ക്ക് എന്താവാനാ. ഞങ്ങളുടെ വാർഡിൽ കഴിഞ്ഞ 4 വർഷം ഏതു ദിവസം എത്ര മഴ പെയ്തു എന്ന് കൃത്യം ഡാറ്റ കയ്യിലുള്ള കുട്ടിയുണ്ട്. ഇങ്ങനെ നോക്കുമ്പോൾ മഴയുടെ പാറ്റേൺ മനസ്സിലാക്കാൻ പറ്റും. നമ്മുടെ പ്രശ്നത്തിൻ്റെ കൃത്യ വിവരങ്ങളുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ പരിഹാരം ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ പറ്റില്ലേ? ഇത് മുരുകേശൻ ചേട്ടൻ ലക്ഷക്കണക്കിന് കണ്ടൽ നട്ടിട്ടുണ്ട്. ആൾക്കിത് ചെയ്തിട്ട് എന്താ ലാഭം? ആള് ചെയ്യുന്നതിൻ്റെ ഗുണം ഞങ്ങൾ കുട്ടികൾക്കാണ്. കാലാവസ്ഥാ വ്യതിയാനത്തെ അതിജീവിക്കാൻ പറ്റുന്ന കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ സ്വന്തം അരിയാണ് പൊക്കാളി. അത് ഇവിടെ കൃഷി ചെയ്യാൻ ആളില്ല. എന്നാൽ വിച്ചപ്പൻ ചേട്ടൻ 12 ഏക്കറിൽ എല്ലാ കൊല്ലവും പൊക്കാളി വിളവെടുക്കും. ഇങ്ങനത്തെ വലിയ കാര്യങ്ങൾ ചെയ്യുന്ന ആളുകളെ നമ്മൾ വഴികാട്ടികളാക്കേണ്ടേ. സസ്നേഹം, ദേവനന്ദൻ.
About 7 new travel experiences that the Blue Yonder launched post-COVID came out of this small docu-shot. Because it's easy to document something, it's easy to showcase if you have a cinematographer, if you have a storyteller, if you have script writers, but what happens after that? So that's where we thought we will look at the 7 human beings in this initiative, or 7 families involved in this, and see how we can add value. Looking at, okay, can you increase supplementary sources of income for them? Can you create projects? So the dining experiences came out of this. The mangrove trail came out of it. You know, the Pokali story of a rice initiative came out of this. And this is just to give you an idea about, the impact of
In August 2018, we experienced a once in 100 years deluge. For a few days it was fun. By mid-August, incessant rain forced rivers to breach and mudslides from the mountains. Then came the flood. In Chenamangalam, the weaving community of more than 300 families saw their livelihoods washed away. Looms, properties, stock, drowned under the water up to 12 feet deep. Piles of stinking soil clothes lay strewn behind the weaving units and along the village road. Where most saw devastation, social entrepreneurs Lakshmi and Gopi saw opportunities. This is where the story of Chekutis began. Through crowdsourcing, 50,000 volunteers in 9 countries upcycled the ruined clothes into 120,000 plus Chekutis. 360 dolls out of each worthless sari. Selling the Chekutis raised the much needed funds for the weavers. They also captured the mood of the time. A beacon of resilience and solidarity shown by our people during the flood. This child from the village of Chenamangalam was someone we all could relate to. It had scars, it had stains. It didn't pretend another perfect world at all. It was us. They are used as gifts, decorations, luggage tags and lanyards, as workshop tool for children affected by trauma, as a memory to hold on to, as a reminder of the height we reached as a humanity. The Chekutis are still young, but they are growing, sharing new stories of supporting the underprivileged with dignity, and telling the world that Kerala isn't just only God's own country. It's also a land of Chekutis. Because this isn't just a story of one village, it's the beginning of 35 million stories, all from one place. A place called Kerala.
So this initiative from 2018 raised about 132,000 US dollar in about 30 days. And it came out of by selling the dolls at just 25 rupees, which is affordable for almost everybody. And there was no pressure on somebody to contribute large amount, but it was more about, people who went through the crisis, who are like, okay, I can relate to it, so I would like to contribute. But interestingly, majority of the funds came from our travel and hospitality industry. And they were our FTOs from New Zealand and Australia who did not even think twice before sending their traveler, even end of September. When the flood was at its peak, they were regularly following us through our social media, looking at what is happening in the ground. And one positive message that we kept on sending was that, yes, flood is happening, but look at the resilience of the people, look at how the government is working, how the police is working, how the volunteers are working. Like, I can already see one of my colleagues here, like Pradeep from Muddy Boots. During that time, Pradeep was working in Wayanad, I was working in Wayanad, Kochi, different places. And some of the biggest support that we received were from the DMCs here in Delhi. Those companies who were working in soft adventure, mountaineering, people who were doing kayaking, people who were doing rappelling, they were sending materials to us, because it was about a destination, it was about the people. So one thing that we learned from that experience is that for our travel industry, for you to lose money, for us to lose money, the disaster doesn't need to happen in the destination where you are operating. You could be sitting in London, which is your source market. You might be sitting in New York, which is your source market. But if you are sending more people, if 50% of your business is going to, say, Uttarakhand, and if Uttarakhand is affected, that's going to affect your bottom line. So this is not only about CSR, this is not only about charity, but this is about how do you protect your own ROI. This is where the industry is coming together. Unfortunately, now with more and more, the frequency increasing, the challenges are becoming, that is where it's high time that we start exploring the possibility of multi-stakeholder partnership. Not just with people in tourism and hospitality sector. Can we work together with the development sector? Can we work with the humanitarian sector? This is a serious question that we need to keep exploring. And now, those people who are sending your travelers to Kerala, you are all familiar with this image of houseboats, backwaters. But one thing that I have noticed is not even 1% of the travelers coming after a backwater tourism experience would have no clue about how a backwater ecosystem functions. Because the storytellers don't tell them, because it's all about sitting in a boat, seeing some people, maybe go get some vegetables or buy some fish, and that's how it is designed. So what we thought was, many parts of the backwater regions are severely affected by climate change. Stories are yet to come out. But there are more than 50,000 people who are affected by climate change. Like if it was some other country, I would say we would call them as climate refugees. They live in houses that are no longer habitable. It is difficult. You saw in the earlier video, you might have seen how the walls were. It's very dry. It is like, jokingly we say, if you don't have salt for your curry, only thing you need to do is to scrape from the wall. Because of the tidal flooding, the sea water entering the house. And around this, we again keep on asking our colleagues in the tourism industry that if this sea water can enter the people's homes, it doesn't take much long for it to enter our resorts. It's going to affect the architecture, it's going to affect the construction, it's going to affect the designs. What are we going to do about it? So this particular tour is designed about showcasing unique skill sets of fishermen, especially those people in Muhamma, where purity is. Also, like regions, places like Kumaragam, where there are 6-7 families who are still continuing to do bare hand fishing. It's amazing to see that, So we try to bring in more and more experiences into the travel experiences so that there are more possibilities for supplementary sources of income. But more than that, it's about the narration, continuously talking about flood. This is not to scare away people, but this is about to keep what is going on in everybody's memory so that they don't make mistakes. By telling so that's where the storytelling becomes so powerful. And in the same area, there are art forms like this, Arjuna Nirtam, for example, the dance of Arjuna. There are just 10 families who are practicing this. That's it. The entire state, there are just 10 people, of which only 3 or 4 are, more or less into it. And in a year, they might get about 3 performances in a year. That's it. So that's why we again started working with the community, and especially all these artists are directly affected by climate change in the region because they 1 inch, 2 inch of water keeps entering into the places. They don't have proper performing places, etc. And we started working with them in such a way. Now we have a project. This is worth about 3 crores for the next 4 years, where we are bringing in lifetime achievement awards, providing fellowships for 10 artists, 20 students. And also now one of our travel partners have offered to provide a permanent performing space for them next to a temple. Again, this is all, and these travel partners are all sitting here in Delhi. So they are seeing the possibility of how they can also add value to various initiatives. When the travelers go, they have solid stories to share. And one of the last slides here, Pokali is a very interesting rice. It is not probably, it's actually the only known variety of rice that can grow in salt water. It grows up to 7 feet. And this is again a water that came from the mountain in 1341 flood. And it settled in 3 districts in Ernakulam, in Alleppey and Trichure. But right now, we have roughly about 7,000 hectares of paddy fields, which are not really farmed. So they would, on an average in a year, farm about just 700 acres. Now, very interesting fact about Pokali is, the Pokali farm, when they harvest, they only take the fanicle, they only take the grain. The 7 feet of stem is left behind so that it becomes fodder for the prawns that they introduce after 6 months. Then the waste deposits from the prawn, it becomes manure for the rice. It's been going on for centuries. So there is no chemical, manures that are going into it. It's symbiotic. It's a beautiful system. And interestingly now, global climate change focused scientists are talking about Pokali farms because it's one of the best solution what they call as a blue carbon economy. A Pokali farm, carbon sequestration is 3 times higher than a rainforest. So it makes a lot of sense to promote this. So when we entered into the space, the farmers would get about 19 rupees a kilogram subsidy from the government. But this is, I'm talking about 2010. And at that time, the production cost of a farmer was already 33 rupees. So even after subsidy, they are losing money. So that's where we started tying up with, the first partner was actually Malabar House. Then we started working with CGH Earth, where we started suggesting them to keep these rice with a story to tell, write it down in the menu, present it as a story, and the curiosity increases and the traveler want to visit the farms. And it started there, and now in 2025, the 19 rupees per kilogram rice is sold at 110 rupees a kilogram. 110 rupees. It's like 5 to 6 times more than what they used to earn. And this is also happening because of the partnerships, network, and the collaboration within the travel industry. Some might not even realize what they are doing. They are like excited about, because sometimes, in our industry, we understand only money. So in such places, we only talk money. So we will talk to properties. We ask them, so how many nights would your travelers stay at your property? They would say in Fort Kochi, maybe 1 night, maximum 2 nights. But Fort Kochi for us is a minimum 7 nights destination. There is so much to do. But unfortunately, I would put pointing fingers to a lot of my friends here in Delhi DMC, where they have been seeing the same circuit for years and years and years, and they don't want to change. They are not interested in, because they are comfortable in that. So this is where, like, if you could step out an hour, you go to Muziris, we have Rishmi there from Kranganur. It's just an hour, 45 minutes, 50 minutes away from Fort Kochi. Beautiful property, and like, I would say hundreds of experiences, authentic, immersive experiences. So this all contributed to this now, to the extent that the local cooperative bank even have a 1.5 crore worth its own mill to process the rice that's coming up, And this all summarizes into what we are now calling as a resilient Kochi. So what we mean by resilient Kochi is, it's not only just about resilience. What we are talking about is about how do you build or co-create a destination that is climate resilient as well as climate responsible. So now, most of the stuff that I showed it was co-created by our small travel company with partnership. We also have a Resilient Destination Foundation, which was created by Blue Yonder and another science-based organization called Equinoct. Now, in Resilient Kochi initiative, we have partners like Kochi International Airport, we have Kochi Metro Rail Network, Kochi Water Metro, and even the Tuk-Tuk, Auto Rickshaw Drivers Association, who are part of this initiative. Interesting part, this is all part of the decarbonization initiatives designed by the destination. Kerala Tourism is not directly involved in it, but as a destination, all these partners have co-created how a destination can actually become climate resilient and climate responsible. So if you look at the Kochi International Airport, it's running on 100% solar power. They are running on surplus, which is fed back into the Kerala State Electricity Board. And then if you look at the Kochi Metro, now soon, within a couple of years, the metro is going to reach all the way to Kochi, Kochi International Airport. Now, this is already running at 60%, running on 60% renewable energy. And the last mile connectivity between the Kochi Water Metro and then, the Water Metro is running it's run on 100% electricity. Now, even that 100% electricity is coming from renewable energy. And if I am in charge of running Kerala Tourism, this is the story I will keep telling wherever I go, wherever I market, talk, because it's a soft power. Because imagine, like, this water metro connects you to 10 beautiful islands in Kerala, in Kochi. That travel, it reduces, we have one trip called Kochi by Metro. It's a day-long trip. We are running in partnership with Kochi Metro now. And we don't use cars at all for a couple of days. for any local trips between Kochi Metro and the water metro, the electric tuk-tuks will come. Right now, there are 170 plus electric tuk-tuks that are ferrying people, but metro feeder is about 5,000 autos, out of which right now we've got only 2 women drivers. So what we are trying to do is to train more than 50 plus women this season, who will be storytellers, who will be first responders. So in the future, anybody who is there in the tourism industry, whether you are in the front desk or whether you are in the kitchen, whether you are a tour leader, you need to have skill sets, which is about how do you respond to disasters. It's not only about saving someone's life, it can also be about saving your own life. As part of that, we, in a village called Erikara, we train 1,500 people on how to swim in 2016. And when the 2018 flood happened, those people were our volunteers. So it's something that, it doesn't need to be done as a charity. It can be, you can look at it from an ROI perspective. And I'll just show
For
you a quick
decades, the
video.
women of Kuriyapalli have woven more than fabric. They have woven resilience, tradition, and survival. Hidden away on the outskirts of Chendamangalam, their looms kept working, even when the world forgot them. A small loan of $3,000 in 2000 has now become a crushing debt of $120,000. And now the bank wants everything: their land, their livelihoods, their futures. A temporary stop order is in place, but unless we raise $20,000 by March 20th, this cooperative will disappear forever. But this is not just about saving a weaving unit. It's about reimagining their future. A climate-resilient weaving hub where looms rise before the floodwaters do. A flood museum telling the untold stories of Kerala's waters, from the great flood of 1341 that reshaped the land to the devastation of 2018. A model of sustainable craftsmanship, ethical trade, and cultural preservation. With your support, we can turn this crisis into an opportunity. $20,000 by March 20th. First to clear the debt, then to rebuild a future that lasts. Join us. Invest in resilience. Be part of the story. Because a tradition that has survived centuries should not end here.
When the weavers reached out to us telling that there is a bank foreclosure and they're going to lose the land, it was $97,000. And that was on Feb 15th when they called us and said we are in crisis. And then we negotiated with the bank. We convinced the bank to reduce it by 50% of the interest. And further, we reached out to the industries minister, worked with them, and they put a stop order telling no action to be taken till March 31st. And then they said, okay, if you guys are all coming together, we can have a better deal. And the bank proposed that if you can pay $20,000, roughly about 20 lakhs of rupees by 31st of March, the bank foreclosure will not happen and the loom and units and the buildings can continue. Bank will not take over. So with support, again, amazing story of how travel companies can come together. On March 31st, the deadline was 10 p.m. in the night. 9:40, we went and handed over a check of 20 lakhs. And the money was coming from travel operators, the money came from travelers. Half of the money came from travelers, actually. People who went there because they have an emotional connect to the place and they are like, is there anything that we could do? Just to show you the possibilities of what we could do. Now I'm going to wind up. And because of all these experiences, what we thought is if small travel companies and DMCs in India can do such impactful work, I would like to see that, this is an impactful work. We thought there is a potential for building this into a global network. Unfortunately, because yesterday when the Myanmar earthquake happened, we were getting a lot of inquiries from people, from friends in the industry asking, is there something we could do in Myanmar? Is there something we could do in Thailand? So that is where Kaitha comes into the picture. it is going to be a platform. It's already a functional one. It is not official. We are testing. It's a beta. What we are trying to do is to bring the humanitarian sector and the tourism sector on a common platform. Not just during disaster. The mitigation time, the preparedness time, the response time, and even when you are planning the recovery. It is very much possible. And the reason why this becomes so relevant is whatever you need during humanitarian crisis, like the Kerala flood or the floods that happen in Uttarakhand or even drought. Whatever we need, the humanitarian sector need during that time is readily available with our $9 trillion tourism industry. Shelter, accommodation, food and beverages with dignity. And if you look at the logistics, we handle airport to airport services. Why can't we repurpose all these things during a crisis? Again, not as a charity, but to bring in sustainability into our own destination. And also think about the highly skilled people, human resources that we have in our industry. Most of our soft adventure travel companies, we have the skill set because our travelers, they go on treks. If something happens, we know how to do the first aids. So these are the same knowledge and know-how that needs to be applied during the disasters. And of course, as I was showcasing earlier, the ability to raise funds during crisis because of the emotional connect our travelers and the companies have with destination, that is something that can be. So Kaida is going to be a platform like that. And we are building a platform, similar platform in the Caribbean islands, and it will be launched in Doha in 2 days. So that's all. I just wanted to give you a perspective about what is actually possible and whatever little work that we did. But one appeal, if at all I have one for our industry, is that imagine, even if it's only 2% of global inbound tourism that is coming to India, it is still a large number. Imagine if we all could focus every year on different locations, 5 or 6 DMOs coming together and say, okay, this year we are going to focus on Punjab. Another, group saying that, okay, we have more travelers coming into Kolkata, so let's focus on West Bengal. Identify these kind of climate resilient initiatives, bring money into it, and then involve the travelers into it. It will actually add more value into your business, and it will help us sustain our destinations that are climate resilient, destinations that are climate responsible. Thank you so much.